We are high grade. We have 66.6% concentrate. We have low impurities. It's a very, very long-lived asset, projected to be 28 years, but in our view, will go much longer than that with what we've got in the ground and the advantage of being close to tidewater. So those are our main assets.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Chris Batalha. He is the CEO of Oceanic Iron Ore. And Chris, it's great to see you. How are you?
Very good, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Good to have you along. Excited to learn a bit more about the company and what you've been up to. For those not familiar, tell me a bit about Oceanic.
Sure. Oceanic Iron Ore, we've had this asset for quite a while now. It's about 16 years. Frank Juster is actually the second biggest shareholder and the person who found the project. It's an iron ore deposit in Northern Quebec, in Nunavik, near Ungava Bay. It's about 25 kilometers from tidewater, which I'll come back to in a second. We progressed the asset in earnest for a few years. When we bought the asset, put ourselves out there in terms of getting all the way to a PFS and advanced on permitting. We had to take a strategic break for quite a few years for market reasons. One, because the iron ore price had taken a bit of a dive for a few years, and when it recovered, we had some trade tensions with our natural strategic partners at the time, which were the Chinese, and our largest shareholder was Chinese. And so with current government at the time, could not really permit a project with that much Chinese ownership in the Canadian government's eyes. So we waited for a better day. And that day came a couple of years ago with other actors outside of China being potential strategic partners for us, and the green steel movement, which I can talk about a little bit later on, and having to then ask our Chinese shareholders to sell their stake so we can move this forward. So that only happened last year. So we're back now, and we're back with a very, very strong leadership team, which includes someone I know, Stephen Dean, and Frank Juster, as well as myself.
Yeah, tell me a bit about the project itself and what you like about it. And as you mentioned, you're in a really good position now with the way the markets are as far as iron ore is concerned.
So Hope's Advance is our principal flagship project. Again, as I said, it's close to tidewater. And when you're dealing with an iron ore asset, which I know, Steve, a lot of your interviewees are not iron ore principally, but it's as much a transportation logistics business as it is a mining business. When you look at other iron ore companies, they look at almost half of their all-in cost have to do with getting your iron ore out of the mine and to its end customer. And one of the significant components of that is the rail. When you're usually inland, you have to spend hundreds of kilometers transporting the material to a port. I mentioned already twice we're 25 kilometers from the water because we don't need rail. And that saves a significant amount of cost in terms of logistics and getting it to our end customer. And that's what makes us competitive. We are high grade. We have 66.6% concentrate. We have low impurities. It's a very, very long-lived asset, projected to be 28 years, but in our view, will go much longer than that with what we've got in the ground and the advantage of being close to tidewater. So those are our main assets.
Yeah, and you've recently done some metallurgical work that really showcase what you're talking about there and how you can sustain, right?
Yeah, so you have your traditional blast furnace, which is used to process the iron ore into steel. It's come under some scrutiny over the previous few years, given its impact on the world and the climate, given the carbon emissions that comes from that. There are other ways to process iron into steel, and this is the green steel movement that uses different types of furnace and different types of energy to transform the iron into steel that's not using coal, which is causing the carbon emissions. But in order to have and use those furnaces, you need to have product that has a certain amount of purity and impurity, and that metallurgical test work proved at a laboratory scale that we can achieve that. So we remain versatile as for use for a blast furnace, but also contributing to the green steel movement, which should attract a premium by the time we hit production.
Yeah. So Chris, where are you at right now? What should people be looking at for the rest of this year and into next?
Yeah, of course. We've engaged in baseline environmental work to continue that on. We've also kicked off a pre-feasibility study that we look to put out in the fourth quarter of this year. It will reset the economics of the project, as our last technical report was 7 years old, and simply just growing the team. So those are our three main focuses for the rest of the year.
Okay, you mentioned iron ore and you mentioned steel. Obviously, where prices are at right now and just the need for it. Can you talk a bit about the opportunity here for the company, especially having your project in Canada and what you're looking to provide?
Yeah, we've hit some real tailwinds with government, with the movement around wanting to protect its own minerals, whether they're critical minerals or not. I should mention that if we go the green steel route, it is a critical mineral in Quebec and in Canada federally. But there's a movement to protect those resources and have them and kept them in countries or with allied countries. There's also an impetus to protect Canada's north, whether it means by building ports and other systems of defense, and we're near a proposed port site. So we have ticked most of the criteria for whether it's potential funding by government or fast tracking in terms of permitting. I'm not saying we have those things, but we meet all the mandates for that. They usually want a PFS to be done before we start applying to those things, but we fit into those movements.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, exciting times ahead. It sounds like. Look forward to following the story as it continues to develop. And I really appreciate your time this morning. So thanks very much. Good to see you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, there's Chris Batalha. He is the CEO of Oceanic Iron Ore.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.